This is Johnny Doskow. Stay tuned for another Score Sheet podcast. Holy Kadelka!
All right, back with Johnny Doskow here. Continue our talk about some of the up-and-comers and some guys he's seen over the years. Moving on to the hitter side, Rivercats have had their fair share of players, but it seems like the A's always trade them. But I'm sure you've seen Carlos Gonzalez.
Nelson Cruz, saw Andre Ethier, saw a lot of these guys, but I'll tell you what, Jamiel Weeks is the most recent one who he's gone up there and he's done well, and he looked good with the Rivercats, and he's just gone up there and he's provided that spark the A's needed. Well, I'll tell you what, and recently, Tommy, just in the last couple of years, Cliff Pennington was a prospect. He was a first round pick that kind of was a little slower to develop, but once he got it, he's doing well up there at the big league level, and fun to watch.
Always helps to have a cannon for an arm.
Yes, it does. He's got that rifle, no question about it.
Talk a little bit about the Fresno guys that have come up the pike. Brandon Bell, I remember last year when he first came through, I thought, whoa. It was like when I first saw Ethier, where that guy was just head and shoulders above everybody else on that team.
Tommy, exactly. And not only offensively, but defensively. You watch him, and he's that smooth kind of Will Clark way at first base, and he's going to be a good player for a long, long time. And it's fun when you see these guys. It's fun when you see these guys at the minor league level. And you and I always talk about these prospects. You'll say, what do you think of this guy? And I'll say, what do you think of that guy? And it's fun to watch when they're at AAA, knowing that stardom is not that far away. And even once we watched Alex Gordon, we talk about Moustakas, a guy from the Royals who came up, who I knew. The guy I missed it on was Matt Tuiasosopo. I thought Tuiasosopo, I saw him as a prospect. I thought he was going to be a great major league player. Hasn't developed quite yet. Still has some time, but that's a guy that, and you miss on some guys. Some guys you think are going to be great, and they're not. Then others sleep.
Who's somebody over the years maybe you saw at the minor league level? That guy looked like a for sure prospect, and it didn't work out.
We had a guy back in the day, Earl Cunningham, who was picked before Frank Thomas. We had him on the Cedar Rapids team, and he never quite made it.
That's really the Wayback Machine.
It was way back. Cedar Rapids, back in the day of the mid-'90s. We had Earl Cunningham, and you know what they did? I'll tell you, a cruel thing they did was, one of the trivia questions was, can you name the player on this field that was drafted before Frank Thomas? They actually had the trivia question on the stadium inboard. That's mean-spirited, So I didn't really care for that. But Earl Cunningham was a guy that just didn't quite make it, and a guy I thought was going to make it was Chris Kurgan, guy on my High Desert team in '96, and he never quite made it. Tony Mader, another guy in Cedar Rapids, never quite made it. But in A-ball, I did get a chance to see Alex Rodriguez, who was with the Appleton
back in his skinny days. Yeah. I remember I saw him when he first came up that first year playing for Seattle.
Appleton Foxes, 1994. Alex Rodriguez, 18 years old and a stud. Who else? I'm thinking Johnny Damon. Got a chance to see him in '93 with the Rockford team. Just so many players back in the day, and some have reached stardom, some haven't.
What are you hearing from scouts? Like, obviously, I've talked to some of the scouts about Bryce Harper when I've been at the games, and to a man, it's like phenomenal.
He is. He's the real deal. And of course, Mike Gazdo used to be our PR guy, is the PR guy is one of the PR people in Washington with the Nationals, and he said is the real deal. And not only just his talent, but his makeup and the way he approaches it. And obviously he's had some immature moments at times. He's young. He's 18 years old, so he's going to have those. But Gazda said sky's the limit. Jason Worth's impressed. Some of those Washington Nationals guys are pretty impressed with him. So whoever gets him, fantasy-wise, whoever gets him, hold on to him, because he's going to be there a long time.
And a guy that just got the call up, the number 2 pick behind Strasburg a few years ago, Ackley.
Saw Dustin Ackley. I wasn't sure what to make of him when I first saw him last year. The scouts really like him, and he's a guy that he's just learning a new position at second base, but he can flat out hit. He's going to hit for a long time. He's going to be in the major leagues for 10, 12, 14 years. He's going to have a nice career, and he's got good makeup and second overall pick. He's a good guy to take.
How about Mike Trout? That's another guy. All the publications seem to think he's a number one.
You know what, Tommy? We haven't seen him yet. He might skip Salt Lake. He may go straight from Double-A to the Angels, so we don't know. But this guy can do it all, I understand. I don't know what they're going to do because they have Borges, another solid defender out there, so I don't know what they're going to do with Trout, but they might have to trade. They have like an influx of outfielders. They have a ton of outfielders.
Yeah, they're kind of like the A's. They just have a ton of outfielders, and if they're going to make moves, it usually involves outfielders or pitchers for the A's. Yeah. Talk about some of the guys, like the local guys. I'm obviously a Yuba City guy. I followed Max Stassi, so he's got an injury issue. But have you talked to any of the scouts about? You talked to Max, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
What do you think?
I'm impressed. I'm impressed with the guy he is. I mean, I don't know about the injury, but obviously the sky's the limit for this guy. And I guess from what Kilby and some of these guys say he's pretty mature beyond his years, and he comes from a baseball family. Nothing's going to really faze him, and I think he's going to have a nice career.
Yeah, and then another local guy that I hear a lot from the official scorers who work at Sac State is Tim Wheeler, who is just beating up Double-A ball. He's having a great year.
Yeah, I haven't heard a ton about him, but I know that from what I have heard, sky's the limit for him too, and it's going to be interesting to see what he does down the road. He's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, so we should see him at Colorado Springs next year. All right,
Tulowitzki and skips Colorado Springs.
He could do that.
You never know.
You never know. He is pretty good, but I don't know if he's going to, as an outfielder, it'd be tough to just jump right to the big leagues and take one of those spots with their outfield.
Be amazed. It's funny, Tommy, these days, and I talk to scouts about this too. They do rush guys sometimes. It's amazing.
A lot of these draft picks, first and second rounders, you've invested a ton of money.
Yes, you have.
And you're doing that on an ongoing basis. It's like every year,
You want to make sure your investment is right away if it's working.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious what the A's are going to do because down the road, Grant Green was their #1 pick a few years ago. Yes. Well, they've already got Pennington placed, and I like Pennington too. I think he harkens back to kind of the Walt Weiss days where he's just a solid shortstop. Yes. But Grant Green, so maybe he switches positions, I guess.
You never know, or they have somebody to trade, and you never know. I mean, just the A's. Billy Beane's always ahead of the curve. Right when you think you have Billy Beane down, he does something else, and he's got it down. So
he does something different all the time. I'm still not real happy with the Ethier and the Carlos Gonzalez. And how about here's another one. A lot of injuries have kind of slowed him down, but Chris Carter, that's a guy that I think you've got to stick with him. He's got the build. He can play, but you're going to have to be patient, I think.
I think you are. The thing is finding a position for him. That's going to be the thing, But he's going to run into 25 or 30 home runs up there. He's got that kind of raw power. He's a man, and it's just finding the opportunity to get him that playing time and get him used to a position that he's comfortable with. He hasn't been comfortable with the outfield yet or first base, and it's a work in progress. But that bat. Hard to leave that bat in the minor.
Yeah, I mean, occasionally I've gotten there early enough to watch his batting practice. It's almost like watching McGuire back in the day. It's just a flick of the wrist, and the ball just goes flying.
Well, I'm telling you, Tommy, he hit 2 balls last year. He hit one in Colorado Springs that hit they have this little facade which is made out of, it's like clouds, and he hit it there, and it was on the way up. No one's ever seen a ball hit that far at that ballpark. And then Reno, he hit a ball that's still going. It's in sparks. It's just flying. I mean, so he has massive power and fun to watch. And again, when you're right, when he takes BP, you don't want to miss it.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting. The A's, you got to figure 1 year for Matsui, so maybe next year. A little first base, a lot of DH, and Chris Carter could possibly make it.
He could. I mean, I think, and they're going to, I think he'd be an up and down guy this year. I'm not sure he's going to stick this year, but you're right. He might be their DH next year. Just stick him out there, because that's what happened last year. Remember last year, for his first 33, rough start, but then he started to get a little bit. Started some bombs, started to get the feel for it out there. So he needs reps. Obviously, pitcher's going to make adjustments to him, and he's going to have to make adjustments to the pitchers, but once he gets it, look out. That power is awesome.
Anybody else you can think of that maybe you've seen or talked to some of the scouts at the games this year that hasn't quite made it to the major league level yet, but maybe...
I will say this, and I know that you and I go back and forth on this guy, and it's last year you were not on Michael Taylor's bandwagon, but I will say this. This year, and I've talked to some scouts, he has made some adjustments. He's taken the ball to center, he's taken the ball to right, and because of that, he's getting more pitches than he's driving the ball. It's kind of one of those...
Not as long of a swing, because that's what one of his hold-ups, I think, is that he had this super long swing.
Yeah, he's an athlete, and I'm telling you, he's going to...
He has a great arm.
He does. He's got tools, and I just watching him now this year, to me, and listen, there are scouts in there, they've forgotten more about scouting than I'll ever know, but I will say this, that he is a better hitter this year. He's a better hitter.
So they think he's got the shot.
I don't know. I think he does, and I hope that they do, because they traded Brett Wallace for him, and Brett Wallace is a pretty good bat to give up. So I think maybe a late bloomer. I mean, he'll be 26 in December. He's not that young, but I still think he's got a chance. Yeah.
And one guy that I think I know I've heard you on the radio broadcast talk about how when they sent him down, Derek Barton, they said a lot of positive things. Yeah. I just see a guy whose swing is just beyond repair right now. He's got this uppercut swing that was never there before. He used to be a line drive guy, and then occasionally he'd pop a ball out. But doesn't it look like he's swinging for the fences virtually every time?
I just think with Derek, he's gonna right now. You're right. I think he's frustrated too with his swing. But I think he's a good enough athlete. Look, they put him at first base. He hadn't played first base before, and he almost won a Gold Glove. Okay, so this guy's an athlete, and he's going to make the adjustments. You got to remember something. He's not 30 years old.
Right.
He's 25. He's 25, and he's a pure hitter, and he's going to get it. I just think he needs to come down here, get 150, 200 bats, get up there and get right. But you're right. Right now, yeah, he's not in a very good place.
Personally, I kind of think he's on the trading block as soon as a move can be made.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, they wanted to get they wanted him to be at 260, 270, so they could trade him, and they do have Carter at first base. But right now, his value not as high as it should be and will be. I think.
All right, great. Well, it's been fun talking.
Great talking to you.
A lot of insight. Johnny's been around a long time. Sacramento Rivercats. In fact, I'll put up a link to the website where people around the country, if they don't know, they can listen to games and watch games online, see all these prospects. It's a fun time. Thanks for joining.
I appreciate it. Always say hi to Tommy Gallen tuning in. Always.
Tune in.
All right.